Millionaire wraps boy in blanket, then learns the truth about their connection. Seattle, Washington, 2023. Christopher Grant, a 50-year-old tech millionaire and founder of Horizon Innovations, was driving his Tesla through downtown Seattle during an unusually fierce winter storm. Heavy snow blanketed the city's streets, causing most residents to seek shelter indoors. As Christopher navigated carefully around a bend near Pioneer Square, his headlights caught a small figure huddled in a doorway. A boy, no more than 12 years old, with only a thin jacket for protection against the biting cold. Without hesitation, Christopher pulled over. "You shouldn't be out in this weather," Christopher said, approaching with the emergency blanket from his car. As he wrapped the thermal cover around the shivering boy, something about the child's face, the determined set of his jaw, the intelligent eyes, triggered a powerful sense of familiarity. When the boy finally spoke, his words would shake the foundations of Christopher's carefully constructed life. "My mom said you might drive by here someday. She said you always took this route home." This is the remarkable story of an unexpected encounter on a snowy night. A boy with a message, and how a successful man's past returned to offer him the connection he never knew he needed. If you value stories about the invisible threads that connect our lives and the unexpected ways the past finds us, hit subscribe now and give this video a like. Join our community for more extraordinary true stories of fate, redemption, and second chances. In the tech world, Christopher Grant was royalty. The company he had built from his garage 20 years ago, Horizon Innovations, had revolutionized cloud security infrastructure. His patents were considered foundational to modern internet architecture. His wealth was estimated at over $700 million. Christopher's home was a monument to minimalist design, a glass and steel mansion overlooking Puget Sound with sweeping views of the Olympic Mountains. The property featured every luxury imaginable, from a private dock to a helicopter pad, yet Christopher lived alone, with only a rotating staff to maintain the vast spaces. His schedule was relentless. Board meetings, investment decisions, speaking engagements at major universities. When not working, Christopher channeled his energy into extreme sports, helicopter skiing, free diving, wilderness expeditions, as if constantly testing whether his physical limits matched his intellectual ones. To industry observers, Christopher Grant represented the quintessential tech success story. Brilliant, driven, and relentlessly focused on the future. Grant doesn't just predict technological evolution, he forces it to adapt to his vision, wrote Technology Today in their feature, The Prophets of Silicon Valley. But beneath the accolades and achievement lay a carefully guarded secret. Christopher Grant had not always been Christopher Grant. Before Seattle, before Horizon, before the millions, he had been Chris Grayson, a scholarship student at Berkeley with a promising future in computer science, until a single night changed everything. It was a past he had buried so completely that sometimes, in the quiet moments between his carefully scheduled commitments, Christopher himself almost believed it had happened to someone else. Almost. Berkeley, California, 1999. Before the mansion and the millions, Christopher was simply Chris, a brilliant but broke graduate student surviving on ramen and coffee, coding until dawn in a cramped apartment he shared with 3 other students. His life had direction, a doctoral dissertation on encryption algorithms that was already generating buzz in academic circles, a position waiting for him at a prestigious research lab, and most importantly, Emma Chen, a fellow computer science student whose quiet brilliance complemented his more frenetic creativity. They had been together for 2 years, planning a future where they would revolutionize technology side by side. Emma's approach to coding was like her approach to life, methodical, careful, with an elegant precision that balanced Chris's more impulsive style. Together, they believed they were unstoppable. Then came the night that Chris's encryption algorithm caught the attention of Vertex Technologies, a rising star in Silicon Valley. After a meeting with their executives, Chris was offered a staggering amount of money for exclusive rights to his work, enough to launch his own startup immediately without finishing his degree. "This is our chance," he had told Emma that night, pacing their small apartment, alive with possibilities. "We can start now, build something together. Why wait years when we can make our mark immediately?" But Emma had been hesitant. "Your algorithm isn't ready, Chris. There are vulnerabilities we haven't solved. And what about our degrees, our research commitments?" Their discussion had escalated into their first serious argument. Chris, unable to understand why Emma couldn't see the opportunity. Emma, frustrated by Chris's willingness to abandon their careful plans for an uncertain gamble. "If you take that deal, you're not the person I thought you were," Emma had finally said, her voice quiet but firm. "Maybe I'm someone better," Chris had responded, the words hanging between them like a barrier that neither knew how to cross. The next morning, Chris signed the deal with Vertex. When he returned to their apartment to share the news, Emma was gone. A note on the kitchen table simply read, "Some bridges once burned can't be rebuilt. I hope you find what you're looking for." For weeks, Chris tried to contact her, but Emma had disappeared, changing her phone number, her email, withdrawing from the university. As his new venture began consuming all his time, the search for Emma gradually faded into the background of his increasingly successful life. 1 year later, when Vertex Technologies was acquired by a larger company, Chris took his profits and founded Horizon Innovations. The same week, he legally changed his name to Christopher Grant, a symbolic break from the person who had lost Emma and from the lingering doubt that perhaps she had been right about his choice. Back in present-day Seattle, Christopher guided the shivering boy into his car, turning the heat to maximum. In the warm light of the interior, he could see the child more clearly, thin but not malnourished, wearing clothes that were well worn, but clean. "What's your name?" Christopher asked, handing the boy a bottle of water from the console. "Daniel," the boy answered, studying Christopher with an intensity that was unsettling. "Daniel Chen." The surname hit Christopher like a physical blow. "Chen and your mother? Her name is Emma." Daniel nodded. "She said you'd remember her." Christopher's mind raced, calculating the years. "How old are you, Daniel?" 11, the boy replied. "Almost 12. 11 years. Which meant he had been conceived not long after that final night in Berkeley. A wave of understanding crashed over Christopher. This wasn't just any child. This was his son, a son he never knew existed. "Where is your mother now?" Christopher managed to ask, his voice steady despite the turmoil within. "At the hospital. Seattle Children's. She's been there for 3 days. Daniel's composure cracked slightly. "She has a heart condition. She's needed a specialized procedure for years, but we didn't have the right insurance. Now it's gotten worse. And she sent you to find me in this weather?" Christopher struggled to make sense of the situation. Daniel shook his head. "She didn't send me. She doesn't know I'm here. I took her old journal from our apartment. It had articles about you, your address, notes about routes you take. She never tried to contact you, but she kept track." He paused, gathering courage. "I came because I need help. Not for me, for her." As the snow continued to fall around the parked Tesla, Christopher stared at this child who carried his features blended with Emma's, the determined chin, the thoughtful eyes, the quiet dignity even in desperation. 11 years of a life he should have been part of, compressed into this single impossible moment. "Take me to her," Christopher said finally, putting the car in drive. Seattle Children's Hospital was quiet when they arrived, the storm having reduced visitor traffic to a minimum. Daniel led Christopher through the hushed corridors with the confidence of someone who had walked them many times before. Outside a room on the cardiac floor, Daniel hesitated. "She might be angry that I came to find you." "Let me handle that," Christopher said, surprising himself with the protective instinct that had emerged so quickly. When they entered, Emma Chen was asleep, looking both familiar and changed. Her face thinner than he remembered, her black hair now streaked with premature gray. Medical equipment surrounded her bed, monitors displaying concerning patterns that even Christopher's untrained eye could recognize as abnormal. She stirred at their entrance, her eyes widening first in confusion at seeing Daniel, then in shock at the man standing beside him. "Chris," she whispered as if seeing a ghost. "It's Christopher now, actually," he said, then immediately regretted the correction. 20 years of careful identity construction felt suddenly meaningless in the face of their shared history. "Mom, I'm sorry," Daniel began. "I found your journal and—" "It's okay," Christopher interrupted gently. "Daniel was trying to help you, and I'm glad he found me." He moved closer to the bed. "Emma, what's going on? Daniel mentioned a heart condition." For a moment, Emma looked as if she might order him to leave. Then, perhaps seeing something in his expression or too exhausted to maintain old defenses, she explained. She had developed peripartum cardiomyopathy during her pregnancy with Daniel, a rare form of heart failure that had damaged her heart muscle. For years, she had managed with medication, raising Daniel alone while building a modest career as a cybersecurity consultant for non-profits. But recent complications had necessitated a specialized procedure available only at certain hospitals, with costs far beyond her insurance coverage. "Why didn't you contact me?" Christopher asked, the question he'd been holding since seeing Daniel. Emma's answer was simple. "Because you chose a different path. I didn't want to be an obligation, or worse, a mistake you felt compelled to fix." With money. As she spoke, Christopher noticed the small laptop beside her bed, open to lines of code he immediately recognized as an elegant solution to the very vulnerability he and Emma had argued about all those years ago, the flaw in his encryption algorithm that she had warned him about. "You finished it," he said, nodding toward the screen. "Someone had to," she replied, with a ghost of her old smile. "It's being implemented in privacy software for domestic violence survivors, not as profitable as your ventures, but important." Work! Christopher felt something shift inside him, a recognition that while he had built an empire, Emma had remained true to the values that had once drawn them together. And in Daniel, those values lived on in a child who had been brave enough to seek out a stranger in a snowstorm for his mother's sake. That night, as Daniel fell asleep in a chair beside Emma's bed, Christopher made a single phone call to his company's board chair. By morning, Emma had been transferred to a private room, with the hospital's top cardiac specialist assigned to her case. 1 year after the snowstorm that brought them together, Christopher Grant shocked the tech world by announcing a significant restructuring of Horizon Innovations. The company would maintain its core security business, but would launch a new division focused on developing affordable healthcare technology, with an emphasis on cardiac monitoring systems for underserved populations. More surprising was his introduction of the division's new co-director, Emma Chen, whose approach to ethical technology development had transformed how Horizon evaluated its projects. Though Emma maintained her separate residence with Daniel, her collaborative relationship with Christopher had evolved from professional to personal, with a cautious rebuilding of trust that neither had thought possible. For Daniel, now 13, life had expanded in unexpected ways. His academic abilities, already strong, flourished with access to resources Emma had never been able to provide. But more significantly, he had gained a father who recognized in him not just genetic inheritance, but the best qualities of both his parents. Christopher's glass mansion on Puget Sound had undergone its own transformation. Once a showcase of isolated luxury, It now hosted regular weekend gatherings, Emma's colleagues from her non-profit work, Daniel's friends from school, and the diverse team working on their healthcare initiative. The spaces that had echoed with emptiness now resonated with the messy, unpredictable energy of connection. In a rare personal interview, when asked about this dramatic life change, Christopher responded with uncharacteristic vulnerability. For 2 decades, I built technology to connect the world while keeping myself isolated behind firewalls of achievement and wealth. It took a child's courage during a snowstorm to show me that the most important connections can't be designed or controlled. They can only be recognized and honored. Emma, standing beside him during the interview, added her perspective. Sometimes the bridges we think are burned completely are actually just waiting for someone brave enough to begin rebuilding them, one plank at a time. As for Daniel, when asked how he felt about his role in bringing his parents together, his answer reflected the wisdom that had led him to seek out Christopher in the first place. Everyone talks about how I found my dad that night, but really, I think we all found each other, and maybe that's how it was always supposed to be. Sometimes the families we create aren't formed in traditional ways, but through moments of courage, recognition, and the willingness to see past old wounds to new possibilities. And sometimes a simple act of kindness, like wrapping a shivering child in a blanket during a storm, can be the first step toward healing the past and reimagining the future. This is Millionaire Stories. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, please consider sharing it with someone who might be waiting for their own moment of reconnection. Don't forget to subscribe for more extraordinary journeys of discovery, second chances, and the unexpected ways our lives intersect. Let us know in the comments about a time when an unexpected encounter changed your life's direction.